guys, welcome to the Silver Report. Here we are, Friday, February 10th, 2017. We have gold closed out at $1,233.90. Silver, we made it, $18.03. And let's get into some of the economic news. And here we are, a decade after the most devastating housing market collapse. And we have the Federal Reserve officials are now watching the housing market again. Rising apartment towers, they're saying, is the next asset price bubble that is forming. And let's get real. James Bullard, the St. Louis Federal Reserve president, came out Thursday morning, despite the coming inflation monster that we're facing and this asset price bubble from rising commercial real estate. He's saying the federal funds rate will not rise again. 1%. He can't even see through 2019. In a speech at Olin Business School at Washington University, he said nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. That they're not going to be raising rates above 1% through 2019 because the economy is just not doing that well. We think this is his quote, we think the low, safe, real rate regime is unlikely to change in the near term. This means the policy rate can also remain relatively low over the forecast horizon, end quote. That's precisely why Janet Yellen said in a speech in January at Stanford University, we have an issue of high commercial real estate prices and a new bubble forming. She said this is the issue forcing interest rate threats. And that's what they're doing. They're using interest rates as a way of beating down the economy, kind of as a threat. Her term's not expired yet, but she's made it clear that the Federal Reserve is going to operate their own monetary policy regardless of what Mr. Trump says. And she's going to be resistant. And it's a way of threatening any policy changes that are not favorable to them, to be able to manipulate and through fear of crashing the economy, try to get everyone under their control. That's what we're really facing. I mean, wasn't this the intent of the inventors? Give me control of a nation's money supply. I care not who makes the rules, who makes the laws. But such hotspots are testing their patience, is how they describe it. This is the identical situation that initiated the last crisis, current crisis, however you want to put it. The same overheated residential property market. It's a section of concern. I mean, we see it clearly in places like Manhattan's real estate market. The fourth quarter of 2016, we saw a massive decrease of job growth. So this is a major problem. This is the economic powerhouse of the United States of America. The city with 20 million people in its statistical area, it only gained 63,500 jobs in 2016, all of 2016. This is the smallest number since 2010. There was only 5,000 jobs in December. This is an anemic number. That's a drop in the jobless rate in December of 5.2%, following another drop the month before of 5.7%. Venture capital investment dropped to 10%, the lowest since 2010, at the heat of the crisis. It has been dropping 5 of the last 6 quarters. Even subway and bus rides declined from the higher unemployment. Less people traveling, less people going out to work. And it's not the only moves that are taken. We see that Janet Yellen, she will be on her way out of the government in kind of the near future, but there's more than that they use to threaten President Trump. They ran their campaign. They tried to keep their globalist control of the economy. But we see another thing that is more dangerous coming out. We see that Fitch Ratings, now that's the rating company that rates sovereign companies, it gives companies their rating. Now they're out there saying that this is the lowest number of sovereign nations that were able to have a AAA rating. The smallest number ever. And so what we're seeing, this same Fitch rating company is coming out, and he's very political. He's making statements about Donald Trump's presidency poses a risk to the global economy. Now, these are major players. These are the players that determined the credit rating of nations. They have the ability to sink nations. They dropped the United Kingdom out of a AAA credit rating. Spain, Italy. And he's coming out and making very political statements. He said less than a month into the presidency, characterized by frequent Twitter tirades and an executive order to ban citizens from some Muslim-majority countries from entering the U.S., he said Trump poses a threat to global economic conditions. So not only are they using the Federal Reserve and fear tactics to be able to steer away from economic conditions that are not favorable to them. Fitch is one of the 3 big rating agencies that assigns credit scores to governments based on their perceived ability to repay debts. It was a strongly worded statement that the new U.S. administration could damage those scores, known as sovereign ratings. So it's a threat to the United States. More than that, it's a threat to the elected government of the United States. The Trump administration represents a risk to international economic conditions and global sovereign credit fundamentals, end quote. Quote, U.S. policy predictability has diminished, with established international communication channels and relationship norms being set aside and raising the prospect of sudden, unanticipated changes in U.S. policies with potential global implications, end quote. So he's making some very strong statements about his disdain for some of the actions that are taken by the President of the United States. And these people have significant power. And this is what we've been speaking about before. When these globalist central banking elites begin to lose power, they have many tools at their disposal, like altering a nation's credit rating. I know we saw China come out, and they're in the news saying, with the BRICS nations and with the World Economic Council, that they're prepared to begin to hash out a system where they would become the economic leader of the world. Using the United Nations, which we have a president who is fighting for the sovereignty of this country, and using that body that they see as abandoned to join countries together and to cut the United States out of the position that they've held for decades. For decades. And it's at dangerous times. More than that, when we see people who are in control of issuing nations' credit ratings, Federal Reserve chairmen coming out and making political statements. It's a standoff between Donald Trump and the Fed. It's a standoff. This woman, she's coming out and saying that she really doesn't care that the Federal Reserve is not connected to any politics. She was appointed by Barack Obama. The new federal government has listed jobs and domestic economic growth as items of top importance. The Federal Reserve has the ability to throw a wrench in the middle of all this trumped-up talk. And that was a quote from Janet Yellen, the most powerful woman in the world, she's known as. And that's the issue that we have at play here, is that we are in for very troubling times. And they wanted to tell you that the reason that the markets were rising were because of Trump's announcement of some new tax cuts. He's been talking about this for months. He campaigned on it. But they don't want to bring up that the St. Louis Federal Reserve president is giving speeches saying that they don't see an interest rate hike possible through 2019. And really we see with the suppression of precious metals, the suppression of the U.S. economy, the suppression of a Trump presidency, is the reason that they are using these threats of interest rates to try to subdue the United States economy. And it's just not possible without their whole system come falling apart. And I thank you guys so much for joining me here. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe, like the videos, share the videos. I thank you guys so much. Leave me a comment in the comment box what you think. And remember, stay safe.